Hello, Father Mark here again. We are continuing our tour of the church by way of the stained glass windows. So we're moving down the aisle of the north side of the church in the nave to the second bay. And today's window from our collection of beautiful windows from the Munich Stained Glass Window Company of Chicago, circa 1916, this beautiful window depicts the story, an event from the story of the life of Saint Simon Stock. So who is Saint Simon Stock? Simon Stock was born in 1165 at Kent in England. Again, another fellow born into a highly respectable and well-to-do family. A very eccentric little fellow, because at the age of 12, Simon, whose last name was not Stock, but Simon at age 12 decided that he was going to live a contemplative life. And he went and put together for himself a little dwelling place in the hollowed out part of a huge oak tree on the property of his family. So it was called the stock of the tree. So he was called Simon Stock from that time on. So he made a little chapel there for himself, and as the story goes, he lived there for 20 years. Then he decided to leave his stock, or his chapel in the tree, in the oak tree, and decided to become a Carmelite monk and a hermit. So it wasn't much of a change, actually, but it was part of the Carmelite order now. So later on, he became the superior general of the Carmelites. And then this window, which depicts an event July 16th, 1251, when the Blessed Virgin Mary appeared to him as he made a visit to Mount Carmel in the Holy Land. And during this apparition, Mary gave to Simon what we know as the Scapular, asking that this become part of the Carmelite habit. And so the Carmelites wore the scapular. She also promised anyone who would wear this scapular that she was giving would persevere until death in the church and die a good death. So it became very popular amongst the laity, so we are familiar with the small version of the scapular that we are encouraged to wear. Mount Carmel, a word about Mount Carmel, is a place in the Holy Land that was considered holy even hundreds of years before Christ. If you will remember from the Old Testament, it was there on Mount Carmel that the prophet Elijah challenged the prophets of the pagan god Baal to a contest, and then he was victorious. Later, after Christianity began, Christian people were deciding they wanted to withdraw from the world. So they found Mount Carmel to be a place where they could do this. So they were coming to this mountain there and living alone as hermits. Eventually, a monastery was built. And Simon lived until he was 100 years old and died in the year 1265. So looking at the window again artistically, we notice there, because these artists at the Munich Stained Glass Window Company took great pains to add all the possible details. So things that you might want to notice here are the details on Mary's robes. And another interesting element of the window here, if you look very carefully, you will see that Mary's long hair flying behind her, her veil's raised a little bit. Very rarely in images of the Blessed Virgin Mary do we often see her hair. So that was something a little bit unique they put into this window. And now talking about hair, if you look over to Simon Stock, his hair is beginning to look like what we would know as the monastic cut. The face on the image here doesn't look particularly old, but at the time of this apparition, he would have been 86. So if you notice, he's kind of bald on top and a little around the sides. Many of the monks look this way. Finally, the inscription at the bottom of the window says, Ofiarowało Towarzystwo Serca Jezusa, which would be translated as offered by the Sacred Heart Society, and then it details Group 162 of the Polish Roman Catholic Union of America. So this is a very significant window for our church, because even though it's called the Church of Our Lady of Mount Carmel, we wouldn't know anything about her if it wasn't for the fact of St. Simon's Stock. So it's very appropriate that someplace in this big, beautiful church of ours, there'll be some reminder of St. Simon's Stock.